Alright guys, today we have more PlayStation news and rumors to go over and talk about. We have quite a lot to go over here today, so before we get into it, if you could do me a favor and hit the like button to help the video out and show it your support, I'd greatly appreciate that. And make sure you hit that subscribe button as well if you are new here to the channel. But we're starting with a very significant PlayStation VR leak that I think a lot of you are going to be interested in, because it seems as though the specs for this next-gen VR headset are out here. Now, this is coming from a relatively reliable source, and these specs do line up with what Sony has been teasing, so let's go over them. This is reading from Push Square. I happen to like their headline. It says, next-gen PSVR for PS5 sounds mind-blowing. So let's go over it. They say the next-gen PSVR headset has already been announced for PlayStation 5, and it sounds like a quantum leap compared to its rudimentary PS4 predecessor. That is assuming an exclusive report published by Upload VR is accurate, which cites, quote, reliable sources, unquote. Apparently the platform holder has been briefing developers on the headset's features, which makes sense considering it did mention prototype hardware would be sent out soon. What are the key details then? Well, it allegedly has a resolution of 4000 by 2040, an enormous boost compared to the previous PSVR headset's 1920 by 1080, and gaze tracking, capable of foveated rendering, if I'm saying that correctly. The latter could be a game changer. In layman's terms, it means that the headset may be able to detect where you are looking, meaning that developers can render the objects you are focusing on in higher detail. Pair this with the PS5 super fast SSD, and we are already drooling. So this is something I've seen a lot of people talking about since these specifications leaked out, this foveated rendering, which I've never heard of before, but this does make sense. This is something that would actually pair really well with the SSD speed in the PS5 and the IO throughput. And a lot of people told me when we learned about the PS5 specifications back in 2020, I say that like that's so long ago, they told me that a lot of the thought processes that went into the architecture behind this had to take into account VR. And now we're kind of seeing that, right? It goes on to say, here's another interesting feature. Apparently there is a motor in the headset itself, which is capable of haptic feedback similar to the DualSense. We already know that the device's new controllers will share technology with the PS5 pad, but furthering sensations to the head and scalp should make games even more immersive, although obviously it will need to be delicately done. Research suggests that some of the feedback when synchronized with movement can help with motion sickness too, as sensations of rumble tricks the brain into thinking you're actually walking. So this is very interesting to me. It's kind of strange because it's hard to imagine what haptic feedback on my head would be like. And I could see that going terribly, terribly wrong if it's not, as it says here, delicately done. But what's interesting to me is the fact that apparently this could actually help remove motion sickness, which is a big problem that some people have with VR and something I've actually heard. So very interesting stuff. It continues by saying, as we already know, the next-gen PSVR will leverage a single cord from the console's USB-C port to the headset, and the controllers will be tracked using cameras on the unit itself. This will allow you to face away from your television without losing tracking, and even put the pads behind your back. It will also drastically improve the setup process, as you'll no longer need to have the PS camera on your TV cabinet or desk. So this is another big deal where you will not need a camera to use this PSVR headset or the controllers. Again, it's just making it that much more convenient. I think that these are all barriers that kind of got in the way for people, and I speak, from firsthand experience. This is why I did not want to invest in PSVR. There's just a lot of barriers. It's very cumbersome. And the article finishes by saying, our only concern here is the price. This thing sounds expensive. Make no mistake, though, if the information being shared here is accurate, and it seems believable to us, then this is going to be a truly next-gen improvement on the PS4 headset. When you factor in the PS5's primary features, its processing power, SSD, and Tempest audio engine, then the technology being touted here will be transformative, especially when paired with the blockbuster software Sony is renowned for. So I really appreciated the enthusiasm of this article, because I actually 100% agree. This sounds like a game changer headset. I mean, as they say here at the end, when you pair this headset with the power of the PlayStation 5 and the way the PS5 was built, its architecture, how it's focusing on speed, you pair that with Sony's ability to just make incredible games. Yeah, I think the next gen version of PSVR has the potential to be a massive game changer. But as they say here, it seems like it's going to come at a cost, obviously. So I do expect this headset to be very expensive. I would not be surprised if the next gen version of PSVR ends up being more expensive than the PS5 itself, as crazy as that sounds. Now, hopefully it won't be. We know that Sony may be willing to sell it at a loss if need be to try to, you know, move more units out there. But I would expect to pay, you know, a pretty decent amount for this headset. I would not expect it to come in at like $300 or $400. I think it'll certainly be more than that based off of what we're hearing. But yeah, let me know what you think about this big PSVR leak. Does it have you excited? What do you think the price of it will be? And yeah, just let me know your thoughts on it. But we're moving on from that and talking briefly about the new Days of Play event that Sony just announced. Sony has revealed the first details for this year's Days of Play event. The PlayStation Player Celebration will be part of the event this year, and players will be able to unlock new avatars and PS4 themes if the combined player base plays enough games and unlocks enough trophies across both PS4 and PS5. After players sign up, any game they play for more than an hour and any trophy they unlock will be added to a total. If that total surpasses certain goals, players will unlock new PS4 avatars and dynamic themes. If players meet every goal, then you're going to get a total of 17 new avatars and 3 new dynamic themes. So I'm going to have this linked down in the description below so you can go sign up and you can go check out when exactly this is going down. And based off of what I'm looking at here, I think that we'll definitely be able to unlock all of this. I mean, the PlayStation community is absolutely massive, and I think that we can easily crush these goals given these time frames. I think it'll definitely happen. So yeah, the only downside to this, in my opinion, is the fact that the PS5 still does not allow for dynamic themes or any personalization like that, which is unfortunate. I don't know if that's going to change at some point. So right now the themes seem to be exclusive to just the PS4, but you will still get the avatars if you're playing on PS5. And they do also let us know that there will be a Days of Play sale on the PlayStation Store sometime later this month, as well as a free multiplayer weekend that's coming up. So there you go. There is the Days of Play event 2021. But moving right along here, we're talking about something interesting that I think is going a little bit under the radar that I want to kind of shine some light on here. And this is good news for anybody who is concerned that Sony is going to be focusing less on Japanese game development. I know that ever since we heard the news about Sony Japan downsizing dramatically, you know, a lot of people started to jump to conclusions that this means Sony is just not going to care anymore about Japanese game development. But that's actually not true. It seems that Sony's Xdev Europe appears to be a global operation now. And it also seems that Sony is hiring producers for Xdev to work on AAA games from Japan and Asia. So yeah, this is a pretty interesting story. We're going to talk about it being a global operation first. So Sony Xdev Europe has collaborated with independent teams like Quantic Dream and Housemarque for many years, but now it appears it's going to span worldwide. The Liverpool-based studio responsible for releases like Returnal and Detroit Become Human historically only interfaced with European teams, but an internal reshuffle appears to have put it in charge of PlayStation's second-party operations worldwide. While the team's website remains unchanged and it doesn't even mention recent releases like Sackboy: A Big Adventure, alterations on PlayStation.com and career-focused social network LinkedIn appear to demonstrate the shift. Longtime employees now describe their roles as external producers within the PlayStation Studios framework. Some even list their positions as global external producers, illustrating that this is now a worldwide operation. On the platform holder's official website, Sony Xdev, no longer named Sony Xdev Europe, we'd like to stress, is described as collaborating with ambitious external studios across the globe, Presumably, that means it will be involved with upcoming projects from Jade Raymond's Team Haven and the ex-Destiny developers at Firewalk Studios. Japan Studio, which shuttered recently, had its own Xdev outreach program, which saw it collaborating with independent developers like From Software on Bloodborne. However, at the time of the division's disbandment, a spokesperson for the platform holder said that any external production roles would be, quote, concentrated within the global functions of PlayStation Studios, unquote. We suspect then that Xdev is also in charge of any collaborations with Japanese developers as well. This does seem like a big change, and it'll be interesting to see how its output evolves over the coming years. Sony Xdev Europe has always been a prolific part of PlayStation's portfolio, but if its operations are now global, does that mean it'll be collaborating on more projects or simply cherry-picking the very best teams from around the world? So yeah, this is something that, as I said, is going largely under the radar, but it's a pretty big shift. And I think that, you know, the last paragraph here asks a good question. Does this mean we can expect more games, or does this mean that they're really going to work hard to just cherry pick the best of the best? We really don't know yet. If I had to assume, based off of the way Sony is conducting their operations these days and just the way that they're trying to, you know, continue to mold the PlayStation brand into something very prestigious, something very high-end, I guess you could say, I would assume that they're going to become more picky in what they choose to do and who they choose to work with. But it is nice because it is true that this is confirmation that Sony is hiring for producers to specifically work on AAA games from Japan and Asia. You know, I think that is important to highlight because a lot of people, as I said, were under the assumption that once Japan Studio closed, that was no longer going to be a focus for Sony, and that's just not the case. So, you know, whether or not that ends up playing a huge role here, that remains to be seen. But this is, I think, overall pretty good news. It's good to see that this is something that's going to continue to kind of expand, and hopefully, you know, the goal of this ultimately is to bring more games exclusively to the PlayStation platform, but more specifically, like really good games, right? Kind of like what we saw with Returnal, as well as many other second party games that came to the platform during the PS4 generation. And yeah, it seems like they're kind of doubling down on that here in some way by just expanding it, you know, outside of Europe, and, you know, kind of looking for even bigger partnerships that they can, you know, strike. So there you go. Just wanted to let you guys know what's going on with Sony's Xdev team. So yeah, make sure you leave your thoughts down in the comments below about everything we talked about. That's going to do it for the video, guys. Leave it a like, subscribe if you're new, hit the bell notification icon, and feel free to share this video out on top of all that. But until next time, guys, take care.